Hello beautiful people, welcome back. Today's video is going to be something a little bit different, as it's pretty much been a year since I crashed my other MT. I'm going to talk about how it has affected me mentally since the crash, and I've got a lovely little bullet point list there to keep me on track. Let's get going. Okay, so I'm not going to really talk too much about the crash itself. I have already covered that in another video, so if you've missed that, go and watch that one. It's going to be on the card at the top right of the screen. Go watch that, then come back to this one. It should make a bit more sense. So, it's been pretty much a year since I crashed, and like I said in the intro, I just want to go over how it's affected me mentally. So, normal day-to-day life, I don't suffer with any mental health issues. I know it's going to sound like a bit of a cocky brag, but I'm just sort of painting a picture for you. So I don't suffer from any mental health issues, don't take any medication, whatever. I'm like one of the lucky ones, and I know that. But since the actual crash itself, we're going to totally disregard the injuries because they weren't too severe. There was no broken bones or anything, but we're just going to be talking about how it affected me mentally. A few days after the crash, my mate that I work with has a 125, and I've heard from people that when you have a crash, if you don't get back in the saddle, then sometimes you won't ever get back in the saddle. So it's always better to just jump in the saddle and get going. How many times did I say saddle there? Fuck it now. Yeah, so if you don't do it, it can affect you where you end up not doing it, if you get me. And so I got on his 125 and I done a couple of circles and things in this. I thought, okay, yeah, I've got no mental trauma in that regard. I'm getting back on a bike, so I thought I was perfectly fine. And then obviously I didn't have my bike because it was smashed up. He's got his bike, but then I ended up going on strike due to work, and one of my mates has a GSXR 750, and I couldn't obviously get to work, so he lent me that bike to get to work. It's a 2015 plate, and it's got no ABS. I don't think it's got a fuel gauge. It's quite bare bones, to be honest, and it was sort of at this point like late October, maybe early November, sort of around that time. So it was quite cold out, wet everywhere. Sometimes you get ice on the road because we were going to the strike at like 6 in the morning. So I had to ride that to the strike itself, and bearing in mind that time of year, it's dark in the mornings, dark in the evenings. So I'm riding around on that bike, and obviously thought I was fine, didn't think anything of it too much, until little things start happening. Like when I pulled out of my road, the back end went out because I gave it too many beans. Although I did have it in like the lowest power mode that it had, it still like kicked out a little bit, and I was like, oh my god, not another one. And then riding along up a hill, if it's a bit wet or icy, you can feel the back end slip out, and it's sort of like just adds on top. That doesn't even make sense. It adds to the things that are already in the back of your mind since your crash, if that makes sense. So you've got all of the stuff from the crash, and then you're getting all these little minor things that are sort of just chipping away, if you will. And I think I ended up needing to take that bike to my medical assessment to get checked out, and I told all of this to the medical professional that was checking out my injuries and mental health, and he seems to think that I suffered from a bit of PTSD from the crash, because where I'm constantly thinking about the crash itself, and then obviously my mind's not focusing here, it's focusing on things like that and what could go wrong. And if you if you think about things that can go wrong, they will go wrong. It's like if I say don't think of an elephant on a bicycle, you're going to think of an elephant on a bicycle. So if I'm in that negative sort of headspace of, oh, this might happen, this might happen, this might happen, then you're going to be sort of bringing that into reality itself. So he seems to reckon I suffered from a little bit of PTSD from that. I can remember when it was dark one night when I was going home on that 750 that I had a clear visor on. It was dark, I had the lights on obviously, and the floor was wet, and I was heading towards a roundabout, and I didn't see the curb on the side, and I almost hit the curb. And even something as small as that, yeah, it's something so small, but since the crash I was like, oh my god, I just need to not necessarily stop riding, but stop riding when the conditions aren't ideal. So then I ended up getting a lift with another mate to work for the remainder of the time until I got this in December. Then sitting on an MT again, compared to that 750 that I was used to riding for a fair few weeks, I was like, this definitely feels a bit more like home, as you're not sort of tucked in a horrible position, you're nice and upright, like I prefer anyway. And so I got on that, and I was still a bit cautious, as when I was riding around I wasn't doing anything silly, I wasn't practicing wheelies at that point again. I was just sort of taking it easy, learning the bike again, and sort of regaining my confidence, if you will, to the point where any time that I'd come near a flatbed transit van, I'd almost sort of, I don't really know how to explain it, it would be in the back of my mind that I'm going to hit into it, as the vehicle in question that I ended up having a collision with was a flatbed transit. So any time that I had a transit in front of me, like a flatbed one, I'd be very cautious on what it's going to do. And when I was going home one day, the exact same thing that caused the crash in the first place almost happened again. There was a flatbed transit in front of me, there was a junction up ahead, and I thought, play it cool, stay back, and this transit van just swung it right like the other one did that I had the collision with, and no indication, nothing whatsoever, just swung it right. And I thought to myself, if I didn't learn from that mistake that happened with my last crash of sort of filtering when there's a junction up ahead, it could have happened again. So after continuing to ride the new MT, over time I started gaining my confidence back, started getting less worried about little things happening, about like wheels slipping out, just the minor things, what I class as minor now. As the more I kept riding, the further and further away the crash was mentally for me, sort of just regaining confidence on the bike itself. And then I ended up becoming a better rider from it. So I'm not saying the crash made me a better rider, I'm just saying sort of due to the crash, and then due to me being a bit more cautious on the road itself, I then became a better rider. I can, it's a little joke within my riding group that I can't corner, and I probably still can't corner that well, but I know that I can corner a lot better now. I understand how to view the road more accurately, if you will, and I just feel more at home on the bike than I ever did. So I'm not trying to advertise go and crash a motorcycle will make you a better rider. This is just my experience, how it affected me mentally like since then, and how I've got past that. And if I've got any advice from people, well, for people that have had a crash, worried about crashing or anything like that, sometimes it's unavoidable. You can be the best rider in the world, and obviously there's other people on the road, so it's not always going to be down to you. There's other people that can cause accident, injury, all of that lot. If you have had a crash and you're suffering mentally, then go and talk to someone, because there's a guy I know called Lewis who had quite a severe crash recently on his Grom, and he doesn't he doesn't know if he's going to be riding again, as he, at the minute, he's not mentally wanting to. There's something in his head that's causing him a mental block. Sorry, Lewis, that I'm using you as an example, but if there is something stopping you from getting back on a bike, try and remember how much joy it gave you in the first place. And if that's not enough, then go and speak to a medical professional that's an expert in sort of that field, to help with mental trauma, like not a psychiatrist. You know what I mean. I want to say a shrink, but no, that's the wrong. A therapist, that's the one. Go speak to a therapist. There's no shame in it whatsoever. I highly recommend it, and hopefully you can get back on the road, as these things are amazing toys to play with, but they are dangerous, and we need to respect that. And like I said, I learnt from mine. I feel like I've become a better rider from it. I think my wheelies are definitely better as well. Obviously, I'm trying to advocate a bit of safe riding here, but have fun, be safe, and that's that. That is that. Come on, you can go. You can go. I can go as well. Rightio. I know that was a bit of a different video. It's a bit of a Debbie Downer, but I just wanted to let you guys know my experience. Fucking hell, that was a lovely pothole, that. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you're new around here, subscribe. If you've got any personal experiences with any mental health trauma, leave them in the comments. Strike up a conversation with each other. And if you feel like you've got no one to talk to, you can message me on here. I don't think you can. Oh god, I'm showing my age now. I don't think you can DM on on YouTube, but you can DM me on TikTok or Instagram, and I'll be more than happy to reach out and see if I can help you along this part of your life, really. But yeah, leave some comments down below, strike up a conversation, and I love you all. See you later.